Yo, what is going on, guys? Max here with a brand new video, and today we're back in Fallout 76, jumping in for the first time in roughly over a year. So I've been playing the game a lot more recently, so I had a pretty decent idea of what is the best way to level up, because when I did come back, I noticed that things have changed quite a good bit, and it was really hard just to get normal XP. So after doing some digging and for finding out for my own self about the best ways that I could level up in the game, here are my top ways that I found to gain a lot of XP so you can level up your character fast and get to the build that you want to use, actually. So the first one is going to be the easiest, but it's not going to be the most beneficial. You could just go to several locations that have a bunch of enemies. Like right now I'm in the White Spring little golf club area, and there's a lot of feral ghouls here that you want to go and just kill. It may not be the most beneficial to you, however it does tend to be the best option for a lot of new players, as they can just go to some of these high traffic areas and just continue to kill the same enemies over and over and over again to get as much XP as possible in the shortest amount of time. Now there have been some nerfs to this, as there are certain locations that do take longer to actually... It's like a world cooldown where it will bring more enemies back to that same location. Think of Deathclaw Island, how you can't just sit there and kill the same Deathclaw after every 2 or 3 seconds. It does take roughly 15 to 20 minutes is what I've noticed, just for them to come back and be in the same spot. Your mileage can vary, but this is just what it seems to be for certain locations. Not every location will be the exact same. Remember this, as some locations will have just legendary enemies that will spawn randomly. I do believe if there is a legendary enemy, it does tend to change the cooldown for some strange reason, is what I've noticed. I'm not quite sure why, or maybe there's just something in programming wise, but it's kind of odd, and if you've noticed it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Depending on if you're going solo or alone, the ash heap, this whole area, is actually a really good spot to get mole miners. Mole miners aren't going to be the most difficult, and they're going to actually drop a lot of loot. Farming mole miners tends to be pretty beneficial no matter what level you are, as there are quite a good bit of legendaries that have the chance of spawning at a lot of the mines, as well as whenever you do go to one of these locations that has a lot of mole miners, there tends to be so many of them. So farming kills back to back to back tends to give you a lot of XP. Now, of course, if you're a much higher level, you can always go to Watoga if you haven't done the quest yet. That would disable all of the robots and they'd be friendly to you. If you haven't done that quest, you can actually farm the robots continuously and get a ton of XP from it. And if you're just starting off, like you're fresh out of Vault 76, this area right here in the forest is going to be your best bet of where you can get enough Scorch to kill, as well as a few super mutants. The super mutants will be a lot more difficult. However, like I said earlier with the ash heap, they will drop so much gear that it will be much more recommended than just killing Scorched over and over again. And the amount of XP you can farm off of just killing them will be insane. Now remember, this still isn't the best way to gain XP. This is just the first little baby step, if you will. There are much better ways. Now the second version of this, instead of just going to locations that have a lot of enemies, what you could do is actually go to locations that have giant enemies. What I mean by that is, think of Solomon's Pond. This is probably this is the second easiest one. Solomon's Pond has a behemoth spawn very close to it, that if you actually put your base there, you can just continuously farm it. If there's a few certain locations that you could go to. Of course, the most popular destination is going to be Deathclaw Island. Everyone at this point knows about Deathclaw Island, and they know that you can come here and easily farm the Deathclaw for lots of XP and lots of gear that he does drop. So you can make your own run going from Deathclaw Island to Solomon's Pond to somewhere else. The idea of this is to only farm big creatures. So think of the Deathclaw, of course the Behemoth, like I said. You're looking at the Mirelurk Queen, as well as maybe Yao Guai, just something that will give you lots of XP very quickly. Something that you don't need to put a whole lot of work into just to find. So if you got you a nice run going, you got a few locations that you visit just to kill a bunch of enemies, you're still not getting enough XP. The next best way you're looking at is going to be questing. Questing is... it's okay, it's not the greatest. For early game, it doesn't get much better than just going around and doing all your quests. The quests do take you to some heavily populated areas as well, so you'll be fighting a lot of enemies, which will then in fact increase your XP pretty substantially. So these two kind of go hand in hand in how they work with each other. As you can see, when you go questing, of course, you'll see a bunch of enemies. After questing comes claiming workshops, as claiming workshops is going to be the last option in this little category. So claiming workshops kind of acts almost as like an event, but it's not quite there. So you don't get the amount of rewards that you do for normal events. However, after you claim a workshop, you do get attacked by either feral ghouls, robots, or whatever, and it does turn into an event. So you are still getting a lot of XP, and it's not the exact amount of XP you get for normal events, but it's still very outstanding. So in doing these back to back, you can always have an event going on in your timeline. So let's say you go from one workshop to the next, to the next, to the next. You do them all, let's say 2 or 3 minutes apart, just for the sake of this project. So as you finish one, you can be getting ready to go to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. So you always have at least one going on, and after you finish that one, you know, of course, you'll be getting lots of experience. As you kill the enemies, you get even more experience. So you're just creating this constant cycle of getting more and more loot, and while you're doing this, you can also be in the middle of doing other things, so you're not wasting time. So it becomes this whole efficiency thing where you can just continue to do this and gain as many levels as you can in such a short amount of time. So I know we just touched on it in talking about how workshops can be events. However, actual events are always going to be the #1 way to level up in Fallout 76. So constantly doing different events as they come, even the seasonal events will give you so much XP. You always have to keep a lookout for the final 2 nuked events. So you're looking at Colossal Problem and Scorched Earth. Scorched Earth is the one that the entire lobby will always join because there's just so much XP that you can get from it. I believe you can get around 3,000 to 4,000 XP, and I think there are some perk cards you can also get that will give you even more XP. Colossal Problem, not too much, as it is a much more difficult, you know, one to do. Definitely don't recommend doing it solo unless you have an absolute death wish. However, if you do in like group, even the most elite groups have a very hard time with Colossal Problem, as it's just so ridiculously hard for no reason. But you can get away with doing it. It's just not recommended. It'll probably take you roughly an hour. You'll probably run out of time way before you even get the chance to kill them. For other events, you can just keep a lookout in the entirety of Appalachia. There are quite a few good ones you'll realize as you do them that will give you more XP and more loot. So you can think of ones that will give you just legendary items if you're looking for that, or ones that will give you crazy amounts of, just say, junk after you complete it, which there are some for those as well. It really depends on your needs, because if you are doing events for just XP, you will also get just a bunch of other stuff in total. And let's just say you don't need any more junk, or you don't need any more legendary items, which if you don't, you can stop by my house at any time. I would love to get some from you. But just for instance, if you're tired of getting these items, you might want to avoid these events. However, I don't recommend it because you're still going to be losing out on a lot of XP. Yes, it can be annoying, but you can always just go and sell these for whatever they're worth to either the White Spring or whatever they're worth actually in your player vending machine. It just makes events way too valuable to pass up on, and it will forever and always be the #1 way to level up, no matter what anyone else says to say. But yeah, guys, that is going to do it for today's video. Let me know if there's any other ways you guys usually like to level up in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next one.